I mean, I would even dare to say that the punks community has somewhat of a fissure within its own community.
Yes.
And that's the V1, the V2 punks.
Well,
You
we
know?
will get to that, guys. Hey, I'm Natalie Stone, sitting here with some OG punks. Do you want to kick us off?
Sure. I'm Raster Eyes. I guess I'm most known for being a moderator in the CryptoPunks Discord chat.
Hello everyone, I'm B. I claimed CryptoPunks. I think I was the first woman to do so because otherwise they would have snapped some of the apes that I did. But I am a collector of art and championing women in the space, trying to bring more in.
Hi, I'm Tony Herrera, also a claimer of CryptoPunks. So yes, I'm happy to be here.
Okay, describe the story of CryptoPunks in 1 to 2 sentences.
Wow, that's tough.
That's a hard one.
Nerdy people, geekies making art that change our perceptions.
Nerdy, pixelated, valuable token.
Immaterial generative characters that you can still somehow own.
I love it. How did you hear about CryptoPunks?
Boy, I don't remember actually. I
You don't
remember
remember?
claiming.
Wait, you don't remember?
I don't remember.
How did you stumble upon this?
It had to be the Reddit because the
Reddit,
Yeah,
okay.
it had to be because the Mashable article hadn't come out yet. But
So you're thinking it was Reddit?
It had to be. It had to be because I was home.
Well, for me, it was Mashable.
Ah, yeah, no, I was there before. Yeah, it had to be.
For me, it was Mashable because I was, at the time, I was already like trying to learn as much as possible about Ethereum and Ethereum blockchain. And so there was this article that talked about the punks and
Yeah, it was Reddit and then Mashable and then Friends.
Yeah, and I learned, my friend Snacks, who's also a longtime CryptoPunk collector, showed me the collection on his computer in his apartment while we were hanging out one night. And it was maybe like early to mid 2018. And yeah, I just thought that they were just so fun looking, and I just love the concept. And so yeah, we've been punk enthusiasts ever since.
I like that.
What were some of your first impressions when you heard about it?
Well, actually, when I first saw them, I thought they were really cool, but they still cost. I think at the time they were like 0.15, maybe 0.1 ETH, which was like nothing, obviously now. But at the time,
Hindsight, right?
yeah, at the time, you know, that was and ETH was still kind of expensive at this time. It was like this market was starting to turn over, but I think they were still like $200 each or something like that. And I was like, I don't know, you know, like these, I can look at these things online anytime I want, right-click save as mentality, and was kind of like, do I really want to spend my ETH on this? I feel like I'd rather just have the ETH. So I struggled with it for a good year or so before I actually started buying them. And then, but then once I started to see things like Decentraland and crypto voxels and see the whole Web3 metaverse kind of concepts really just blowing up, and seeing other NFT collections being produced and all the ideas kind of just flourishing, at that point I was like, oh yeah, I need to be buying punks for sure.
Smart man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember back then, like I was already a bit into ETH, enough that I could do a full node wallet, because also that was a challenge back then to actually claim them. So I had enough to, you know, pay gas, was cheap. So you could bet on it, it was just gas fees. And being a geek and a nerd and liking blockchain, and I was already collecting some art. And then you see this stuff, you know, that we have around us, and there's something to it. That definitely has to be something. They are cool, they're interesting, there's technology behind it, and there has to be something to it. They are not just entertaining, they are something. I didn't know what they were, and we're still defining exactly what it is.
But I mean, how did you know? I mean, because Beauty, you claimed the rare ones, you know, I mean, you obviously hold some of the rarest punks. You're the only female ape holder. So,
yeah, still.
So because Matt and John didn't even have rarity and traits as part of their creative process or vision of this experiment. So yeah, set the scene for me. How did you make those choices?
It was just because it was fun. You had this matrix of all of them. You couldn't select for anything. You couldn't sort for anything. You just had to look for it. And looking for it, you see that some colors pop out, and then you try to find them. And you see, oh, actually, that one, yeah, that blue one, gone.
So wait, so you're saying that you looked at the grid, And you actually spotted an ape.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, how well I did that, and I would look for numbers that I thought would be cool to have, and then
That's
they
like
would
the
take
equivalent of finding a
yeah.
needle in a haystack.
Yeah,
Kind of,
but
yeah.
it took a long time. That's why the even the thread I did, like I remember being in bed because it took so long, because I didn't want to
That's funny.
claim 100. Also because I thought, okay, if I have the
So-
amount I had, if this is ever worth something, I'm set with the number I have in any case. Like I can play this game, it's fine. I'm claiming those apes, and funnily enough, I really thought this would be something because 2 days after claim, I put an ape for sale for 37 ether, which hindsight is nothing, but it took 2 years to sell.
Wow.
It took 2 years, and then one day I'm on Twitter and I see that an ape sold, and I'm like, oh my God, that's mine. Oh my God, someone paid 37 ETH for it. That's insane. But 2 days after claim, I thought, oh, this will be worth something. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought it would be this. But I bet on 37 ETH.
Wow.
that dream did come true.
Well, I have a question because you mentioned the Discord earlier and those early days of community. I mean, I'd love to hear a little bit more about it. I mean, assuming you were obviously you're a moderator, so you're pretty active in the Discord. Do you want to share a little bit about your experience before, the 2021 bull run?
It was an amazing place because all of this was still so new, and we're all just still trying to figure it all out and just experimenting with everything. And there weren't a lot of us in there. There was maybe 20 to 30 people that were really in there regularly. And I would literally spend all day just hanging out in there. I'd wake up in the morning and read what everyone was talking about the night before, and or if I went out for the weekend or something and missed my chat, I would come in there. We would call it Punks TV because it was you would come in there and every day was a new episode of Punks TV, and just a very small core group of people. It felt like kind of going down to your neighborhood cafe or bar and just hanging out with your buddies, but you didn't have to leave your house. And then once things started really picking up and NFTs started getting a lot of attention, it just kind of felt like suddenly the neighborhood cafe got bought by Starbucks, and now it's the whole world's in there, and you lost the intimacy that was there before.
Obviously, supporting other punks is part of the DNA of the community. I mean, why do punks support punks?
I think that a couple of things. There were just a few of us in the beginning. Even if you say 100, 200, it's still a few people that you still manage to make real connections, right, with people during this time. So you get to know people, you trust them, you admire them, you want to help them succeed. So people are kind, and people are kind in the Discord as well. And that was nice. It was a kind and welcoming and supportive community. So I think it speaks a lot to how we are. We came in for the technology, we stayed for the art, and we developed as a group, and everyone saw it grow as at Web3, NFTs, and each other. And now we do so much more than we did back then when we were doing fiat.
I think for me personally, I find the community of punks just some of the most generous and most giving community. It's it's weird because I've done deals with punks that it's just crazy. I mean, I've seen not only deals that I've done, but Pranksky famously did a deal with Beanie where they traded a bunch of assets, and it was over $1 million of assets being traded, and it was just being traded just on their word. And I think there's a tremendous amount of trust and confidence in the punk community. We joke about it sometimes because they're I get off the plane here, and the first people to reach out is if I'm here if they're all punks.
Yeah, I think part of it also is already for someone to be interested in cryptocurrency at an earlier stage like that, you have to have this kind of weird combination of interests in economy and technology and computer science, and it's already kind of like a small slice of a Venn diagram. And then when you add on top of that CryptoPunks, which is an art collectible project, it's that just narrows that Venn diagram even more to this very kind of niche audience. And so I think the kind of people that attracts are just naturally have so much in common, just because they have this weird combination of interests that very few people in the world are interested in: art, collectibles, technology, economy. But I remember being in the CryptoPunk chat being like, wow, all these people could be my best friend. Like they all are, like we all are so like-minded.
What do you think about the word community itself?
Yeah, if you look at anything that grabs people's attention, that thing has a community. I mean, any video game has a community. Any, if there's a film community, there's a community for everything. It's become a bit of a buzzword in this particular sector, and while community is incredibly important for anything, yeah, I think focusing on it so much can sometimes be a little bit, like, it should be something that just sort of happens naturally, right? Like someone puts out a cool, whatever it is, a cool video game, a community kind of should just naturally form around it. It's not like, it's not like these guys putting out video games are like, oh, community. It's just the community kind of just evolves from it. And that's how, the CryptoPunks community evolved that way.
So for me, and I also, my background is working with marginalized communities. My background is really working within a certain segment of the population in the United States, is predominantly the undocumented immigrant. So I'm like hypersensitive about communities. I think I'm like because like when you talk about communities, it's also like, well, who's in that community, and do you have a sense of belonging within that community? I mean, I would even dare to say that the punks community has somewhat of a fissure within its own community.
Yes.
And that's the V1, the V2 punks.
Well, we will get to that, guys.
Oh, really?
Well, and I hate to be controversial, but I mean, I don't think you can tell the story of CryptoPunks without telling the story of the V1 that led to the V2 contract, which it's important.
What are the values of what it means to be a punk? Like, do we actually share values?
Ooh, this is interesting.
Shared values. Well, we definitely value, I think, freedom and autonomy. That's definitely something
it's
that.
It's a permissionless system.
Yeah, permissionless systems.
So we have no control over who becomes a punk.
But if someone's thinking about joining punks, what draws it to them? What do you think? Like, they are so cool. I like them because they are.
You've said access a lot. Both of you have said access. I mean, but I feel like there's something more. It can't just be access.
What is it?
I do think it's also because it's builders and supporters, and we support each other.
Sure.
So it is access to a community, but of people that are at most of the times they are kind and supportive of each other. So if you're joining here, if you put your money where your mouth is, basically, and you joined us, okay, tell me about you. All right, I want to get to know you. I'm open to getting to know you, and it's an invitation to become friends and to maybe support each other. So doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to connect with like Gary Vee, but you can connect with us. And no, I mean someone famous. Like Jay-Z. Like it doesn't mean you're going to connect with Jay-Z, but Mark Cuban. But you're going to find people that have a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom. There are
good taste.
Good taste.
That's true, because
and they care about their reputation a lot.
Yeah,
they do care.
Is somewhat like a tokenized Soho House, right? It's like you first you need to buy the token to get in, and then once you get in, you have this access to this incredible body of individuals.
And that's just something that sort of organically grew out of it, right? That was never an intended. When CryptoPunks were created, I don't think Matt and John ever thought that would happen.
Yeah, they never thought. Okay.
And what attracts someone to a CryptoPunk has also changed so much over time. Like early on, it was just this sort of like quirky, fun, niche thing that's what attracted me and a lot of other people early on to CryptoPunks. And then as price went up, it now became, oh, this is like a digital Rolex or something. This is something I can have in my wallet that shows people I made it. And it's going to constantly evolve over time too. I'm sure there'll be new things that'll be happening that will attract people to CryptoPunks, and different people will be attracted to it for those different reasons.
Totally. Let's talk about V1s.
Oh.
Why do you think V1s are such a lightning rod for this community?
So, they're a token that was originally meant to be what CryptoPunks were, what determined who owned which CryptoPunks, right? They're the original, contract. It's the original contract that was deployed, that was meant to be the contract that we all used. Obviously, there was a bug in it. Matt and John made the decision to just release a new contract and migrate everyone over there. So V1s now become the claiming contract, basically. It's the contract where all the claiming happened, and then because there was a bug, they released the V2 contract and airdropped the tokens from the V2 contract to all of the claimers. And then all trading of punks from then forth was on the V2 contract. And because of that, it's the contract with all the provenance on it, other than the claiming. Of course, the claiming provenance is on the V1. I think the reason why it becomes so controversial is because there are only 10,000 punks, and there's only supposed to be one owner for each punk. And so when someone owns a V1 token and say, oh, I own this punk, it kind of rubs the person that actually owns the punk in the wrong way a little bit, because they feel like they now have to kind of share ownership of that punk, or someone else can kind of like claim ownership or use that punk as their PFP or whatever, and sort of like claim a pseudo ownership of it. And so I think it creates a little bit of friction or a little bit of controversy there. But they're tokens. I mean, Tony was talking about how he likes to collect old coins. These old coins, I can't go into a store in France and spend my French francs on a baguette, but those coins still exist and they're still collectible. So, just because it no longer represents ownership of the punk doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the token, or that, there's something inherently controversial about it. I think the controversy arises when someone says, oh, because I have this token, I own this punk.
Right.
It's weird to me that there's even that conflict, because to me, it's like, it doesn't really make sense. But I can understand, with us being human beings, we can easily conjure up conflict and get into all sorts of arguments about it.
That's the thing. Like, we're all building this stuff and finding mistakes as we build it. And this is part of our messy history of, being early.
What's an important part of the CryptoPunks history?
Yeah, I don't think you can talk about CryptoPunks. I don't think you can talk about NFTs without CryptoPunks, right? And it was also like it was like an experiment for its time that can't be replicated. We're talking at the 5-6 year mark for CryptoPunks. I think in another 10, 15 years, 20 years, we'll all look back on it and say, oh wow, yeah, this was an experiment for some. I don't think that we'll ever see another experiment that has the impact on a particular area of generative art, digital tokens, that CryptoPunks have had.
I would say it was the why did CryptoPunks become what it is today, and it's the people that believed in it. I think the early people on Discord, connecting and talking on Twitter and Discord, made punks what it is. It was us finding each other and giving value to this, to ourselves as part of a group that brought it forward. Because as we said before, at the very beginning, we thought this was the first. It wasn't. But it was the first one that was assigned value. We gave it a lot of value, personal investment of time and effort. We invested ourselves in the project, and valuing this community. I think it's a lot of it.
It was like the light that attracted the moths to the flame, and we all came to the Discord channel, really, and that's where we kind of all talked about our ideas about what the possibilities of using this technology could bring about, and that's really the most important thing, I think, is what the kind of imaginative aspects of what it made people think could be possible. It's just sparked so much imagination, I think, in people's minds.
I love that.
So I think that's really what it's all about.